We're pumped up today.
We're pumped. It's November 4th, 2021. Welcome aboard, folks. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast. We are episode 527.
Yep, I had to look, but you're right.
Congratulations to the World Series champions, Atlanta Braves.
I'm stoked about that, man.
I don't know that I'm stoked. I could honestly, as you know, couldn't care any less. I watched a little bit of it, as you know. About an inning and a half.
Yeah,
I was all in. I was all in for about an inning. I did see that ridiculous grand slam. But it was funny. Like Hayden, he's been all in all sports right now, and he was like, "Is baseball on tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, at 8:00. You'll be an hour and a half into sleep, and mostly I will too." He's like, "Well, I want you to record it so we can watch in the morning." So I recorded it twice. He watched the a little bit of the replay a couple days ago. The game the Astros won. To send it back to Houston, and then I recorded the game, and he woke up. He's like, "I don't want to watch baseball, but let's watch after school." So we got out of school. And he goes, "Did the Astros win?" That was his team. He goes, I go, "Nah," I said they lost. He goes, "Ah." He goes, "I can't win anything right now," because he lost. He lost the bet that we had over the weekend. And I was like, "Come on, man." I was like, "You win." I was like, "You win some, you lose some. That's life." And he goes, "What was the team again that beat them?" And this is classic. He's on the right track. And I go, "What's the?" Said the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves beat him. He goes, "I hate them." I was like, "That's my boy. He's on the right track." There is no, you can't have that much appreciation, when you're fiery. He is a fiery, sports guy. He had the meltdown watching the F1 race when his guy, crashed and whatever. So he's a passionate young man, and it is.
That's right. I always forgot he's
out in sports.
Houston fan, because he went to the stadium, right?
He went to
back in the day.
Yeah, he went to just before this, one of the World Series games back in Houston. We went to the pregame stuff, and he got to go backstage and kind of get a bunch of stuff. So he's got and it was coincidentally on Tuesday, which is the game that they lost. I guess it was also pajama day, and he's got some pretty sweet Houston PJs. He wore his Astro PJs to school. And I think there's a bunch of Braves fans there that probably gave me a little bit of a hard time, but I said stick with your guns, man. You're in the South, stick with your guns. Whatever you like. But he is he's all in on sports right now.
That's good. And I said I was pumped, but I mean it's been the Braves are due.
Yeah.
And but that I didn't think they could do it, to be honest. I thought I just think the Astros are such they're ballers, man. And whenever I watch them, I'm like, man, how do they ever lose? Because they just keep bringing it. But the Braves are stacked too. But I was, I was happy for them. Right down the road, it makes people around here a little happier. And
my God, can I just say? I mean, I don't watch a lot of baseball, but so many of the Braves fans, they're like Cubs fans in a way. They don't, when they're not really playing good, they don't know who's on the team. They don't know what's on. Then all of a sudden they make the playoffs and everybody's got their gear back on, and now we're full on Cubs fans again.
Our left fielder's really good.
Fielder's the man. And you're like, well, you traded for him 3 weeks ago. He don't even know who he is. Braves fans the same way. Probably haven't followed baseball in forever. No intention of going to a baseball game. No idea who's playing. No idea probably even the manager is or anything about the team. But they're like, job, baby. We're back. I'm like, back from where? Back from your hiatus of being a real true sports fan that's loyal? Yes. Maybe that's back for a minute, because they're not going to be good next year.
They're always pretty good, I feel.
They're solid. They're not the Cardinals.
That's how they are different than the Cubs, because the Cubs are weak.
They are. They are. They're super weak. I mean,
coming from Wisconsin, I'm a Cub hater.
That's as you should be. Stick to your guns. You shouldn't be. You can't waffle. You can't waffle. The Cardinals the same way. The Cardinals are always at least very close to always being relevant. Always, no matter what, they're pretty much always up there. They're just steady Eddie. But yeah, you should always have teams that you hate. I hate Alabama, 100% hate Alabama. I think most people should, to be honest with you. We got our neighborhoods.
Most people should.
Most people should. I mean,
should be in my corner.
They should. They should all be in my corner. Exactly. This is the Robbie Bruce Corner Cast. No, I mean, it's we have a ton, obviously, living where we do in Chattanooga. We're close to Georgia. All kinds of Georgia fans in our neighborhood. And they're all super pumped right now. They're number one, just like they were last year, early in the season. They're like, hey, we got playing you guys soon. How are we looking? We're looking good. And I'm like, listen, Couldn't care less how you guys do. All I want you to do is beat Bama by 30 in the SEC championship game. If you can do that, then I will pull for you. I will 100% pull for you. But they're just teams you're not supposed to like the Cowboys. Why like the Cowboys? The most over. Notre Dame, same kind of like pot. Always insanely overrated. They always get TV deals. They're always on, doing whatever. They're always ranked super high. Anyway, we won't riff off too much because we can go on. You guys are probably already fast forwarded most of this anyway. But again, it is a Thursday. It is November 4th. We appreciate you tuning in and giving us your time. If it's your first time, welcome. We cover it all. We cover triathlon. We cover life. We cover everything in between. Also, college and professional sports, as you've seen, where our opinions are many and broad, very loosely. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. Sometimes we'll hop into our Facebook group, which is called Crushing Iron Group. If you want to be a part of that conversation, just answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. Oftentimes, at least we try to, like once a month or every other month at the minimum, we'll go in there like today, and we'll drop in a line and just say, hey, we will do a little Q&A where members of the community can drop in questions. We do our best to get to them, so we'll do that today. Oftentimes, Mike, is coaches and athletes ourselves and best friends will kind of use what we're going through in life, what our own training looks like. We're both coaches, obviously, so we work with a wide range of athletes from across the globe, from very, very different levels, from beginners who haven't even raced. We also work with just pure runners, cyclists and swimmers, and then we also work with elite level age groupers who go to Kona every year. So we work with everyone in between, but that's it. We sit back, relax, just have an open, honest discussion. We with no sponsors, except for the sponsorship and advertisement I have, which is you all should hate Alabama and the Dallas Cowboys and Notre Dame. Outside of that, we don't have any ads or sponsors. We try to keep it sponsor free. We do have one agenda though, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports life. And a way to do that would be to join the club.
I was just saying, I'm
a
little uncomfortable in my.
I walked in today, and I've been working from home this week. I came in Monday, and I'm walking in. Usually, Mike's like rocking it's getting colder out, but usually it's like a V-neck Hanes, like shirt with like your mesh old school basketball shorts. Your hat's turned around backwards, and I roll in today, and you beat me here, and I can always tell when I'm like, hey, I'm running late. I'm quote unquote late. We try to stay around 10 o'clock. I was running late. It's like, it's our lifestyle, man. I'm like. He's been in there working for like an hour and a half. He's gaming me. I walk in, he's got like a pimped out flannel shirt on with an undershirt, some solid looking jeans on, and a nice pair of flip flops. I'm like, I said, where are you going? Like, what do you got? What do you got going on? Like, you got a meeting, like a chamber meeting or something? Going to go speak to the neighborhood HOA and figure something out? But you look dapper today.
It's just funny because we closed on one of our condos the other day, and I get in such a habit of wearing these baggy shorts and C26 logos, and we go into these like quasi kind of formally situations just rolling like that. And it's so easy because the next thing you know, like I was saying, we go to the steakhouse and it's a nice restaurant or something where we show up and everybody's looking at you like, what the hell are you guys doing? But I don't know. I'm just stepping it up again a little bit. But
you do. You look great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a little uncomfortable, but I got to bridge that gap back into like society a little bit.
Do you?
I'm literally afraid of being that old man that walks out in his boxer shorts some days in my because I'm still just walking around the apartment. And like,
we just talked about hibernating, and now you're trying to get out and like be. But this is the Wisconsin, and you're like the cold is like your deal. Like you get out, it's waking you up a little bit, being social. I am not. I'm wearing the same hoodie I've worn all week long and the same pair of pants because that's what I do.
All right, let's talk about the club, and it's relaunched, so to speak, on the website, so you can go there and check it out and get more information or email me if you have more questions. But basically what happens is we set you up for the whole year. We take away the stress of a training plan. You kind of go at how it works is you sign up, you go in, fill out a questionnaire about your history, what you want to do, your goals, your A races, and all that kind of stuff. We look at that and then basically set you up with a training plan for the year based on your ability and where you're at in your training and all that kind of stuff. And it goes through your A race or into next November. It's basically about a year. And that's part of it. And then we have the Club Plus where I'll go in and make quarterly adjustments, which, a lot of times people either get injured or life gets in the way or all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of nice because it's so easy to just get way behind in your training plan.
Way behind. Like, I'll let you continue, but I heard a great quote earlier this week, and I think it and it was talking about training plans and coaching and like making, creating a race calendar. And it was simple. It just said, if you want to hear God laugh, make a plan. Because that's basically like what we do. We make we spend this week or two or whatever, like making these grand plans for like the year or season. And as soon as soon as we make them, life is like, oh, but wait a minute. Like, you're making plans? Like, no, we need a little bit of a change. So it's always good to have, an outline is awesome. Like you said, a watchful eye never hurts.
Yeah. And the reality is it's not active coaching by any means. But I do check in there and I look and see what's going on. I try to be helpful. And if there's any questions, I usually tell people just to email me. So it's not like, you're not buying a plan off the internet and throwing it in your thing and then just falling behind and letting the whole thing go to waste. I kind of stick around, and if you got questions, and I'm available kind of. So all you got to do is just contact me. I always say that from the get-go. And so basically the club plan for the year is $340.49. And then the Club Plus is $499, and you get the quarterly adjustments and all that. There's all kinds of other benefits that go along with it, as far as access to camp and things like that, and club or team gear and things like that. And then I put it up there.
Do it, man.
We came up. I'm dressed for it.
You're dressed for the presentation.
So now we have this really sweet new condo, 4-bedroom condo, right?
Townhome. Call it a townhome.
Townhome. It's on its own. It's got your own entrance, the whole 9 yards. And it's on the same block as our hub, our offices here in the podcast studios. And we have this thing, too, called Club and Hub package.
Club and the Hub package.
The Club and the Hub package. So what that is you get the Club Plus membership for a year. You also get to come in, meet Robbie and I, have a club experience where we take you through swim analysis, bike testing, run form analysis, look at your bike fit, all that kind of stuff, and really set you up going into next year. And 2 nights stay.
Which is generous.
At the condo.
I take one day off, and all of a sudden you're giving away like timeshares to our townhome.
Exactly. But the whole thing for 2 nights, the hub experience and the Club Plus membership included for the whole year is $999. Which is $999.
Which is an overvalued. It's an unreal deal. You did this yesterday while I was taking an off day, and I walked in this morning and I'm like, well, I guess we're going to go into debt. But no, it is like
a
really
$1,500 value.
Yeah, minimum.
Sure.
Yeah, it is. Plus, really is a great deal. And honestly,
hanging with us and
with Mike, and it was one of the reasons we actually opened up the hub in the first place was, to bridge the gap between remote and online coaching, was to offer something like the club membership and have athletes who we don't see day to day, but you can come in, you can meet your coach, you can go through, all the ringer and the steps from setting zones and some analysis to kind of get a really good, eyeball on you, what you need, what you don't need, what you need the most improvement on, and technique flaws, and then just address them and make that plan out. And then on the same time, you can stay 100 feet away at a beautiful place, enjoy your time. But yeah, it's a great value, and I'll tell you this, and I'll be honest about it. Mike works way too hard on it for what you pay for. He is a coach extraordinaire, and definitely we try to undersell and over deliver, and he 100% over delivers.
Mm-hmm. There's okay, so thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I got you.
I do care about it. It's a weird, even though like I said it's not active coaching, I'm available, and it's just kind of a cool program, but. There's 2 things though about that. The only catch is, if there's a catch, is you have to do the hub and club thing during the week, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday morning. Maybe
that's not too much to ask. Like
I know, but it's just a weekday
need time
thing.
off.
I just
Saturday
want to let
Sunday.
you know. Yeah, we're not doing it on the weekends. And then the other thing I want to just throw out there is, if you've already signed up for the club, which a lot of people have, this is retroactive. So if you want to kind of apply that backwards and do that experience, you can do it. So if you have any questions about that, go to the website, look under the coaching and the club. A bunch more information is there. And email Summer at c26operations@gmail.com to check on availability and things like that. All right, there it is, the club.
And we just spent more time doing our own personal advertising and marketing in that one little soundbite than we have the entire year.
Probably, yeah.
But you know what? Whatever. We got to pay the bills somehow. We do this stuff for free. Moving on. What we also do for free, but also because we love you, is we do these Q&As. And that's what we thought about today. We hopped into our Facebook group. Again, if you're not a part of it and want to, it's a great resource. A lot of awesome people in there. But we're going to roll down the list, and basically the members in the community in there will drop in a question. We do our best to get to them. We won't get to all of them today. I know we say we might, but we won't get to all of them today. We'll try to finish them up next week. Maybe do a little double cast on Monday to knock it out, because we'll be at Run Camp Tuesday through Sunday, and which is kind of like a little vacay for us, kind of our off season, a little bit of the start of our off season break. But we'll get things rolling. Charlene asks, how important is it to continue using the same hydration and fueling this time of year as in the training months leading up to a race? It's a super broad question, and I don't know if you're just talking about using the same type product, because I think and this is super common because the main products people use are can be quite costly, right? Like in your let's say you're using like an EFS Pro, or a Tailwind, or an Infinite, or Science and Sport, or Martin, like all these, they're expensive, So this time of year, a lot of people are like, all right, like can I save a few dollars and just not use the same product? And I'm all about that. Like, use whatever's cheap, like save the dollars, like, and a lot of stuff you're doing just because the time of the year and where most people probably live is, you can drop a few noon tablets in a lot of stuff that you're doing. And as long as you take something before and eat some actual food, you should be good to go. You just honestly should. Straight water, a noon tablet, maybe a few gels, but I definitely wouldn't be, trying to, especially leading up to a 70.3 and Ironman. A lot of people need to train their gut. They need to practice consuming as many calories as possible. But you don't need to do that year round. That's like 2 months out from your race. You don't need to be doing that right now. If anything, you can teach your body to be more of a, an aerobic fat burning machine.
That is exactly what I think is a good question too. I think, to your point, it is super expensive to do that. And I think, why not, try to do that with your body, teach yourself to burn fat more, make it a little harder. I usually take, my water bottle with nutrition on runs, most of my runs during the year. But lately I've just been going out in water and, just taking a little easier, because that's kind of what we should be doing, probably most of us right now anyway,
yep.
But like, all right, say you're trying to work on something and you're going harder on the bike, 1 day a week. Maybe that particular day you might want to kind of make sure everything's set up for it so you don't completely fall apart. But for me, I'm really getting it's sort of like, I'm finding that it's real kind of nice actually to just go at a pace where you can handle it and you don't have to really dig deep. But I don't know. I like pushing the body through things, making it just a little bit harder occasionally. And those are all, it's sort of like intermittent fasting or something in a way.
Yeah. I mean, we're not advocating you to like not eat before and after and not take care of your body because you need to recover, but because you still need to do those things or you're going to increase soreness and not be able to recover and not get as fast as you want to be just because you're not taking care of your body. But you don't need to be, you shouldn't be doing as much, right? Like you shouldn't be doing as much. You should need to have, you go out for a 30-minute run. Like you don't need a recovery shake, and 2 bottles of EFS, like, you need to go have lunch, like that's it. But I think we get so caught up in that year round type of, frame of mind that we're like, but I've got to have my, post-workout smoothie. I'm like, you ran for 25 minutes with your dog. You don't need a post-workout smoothie. Like, or get a new dog, that's a little bit slower and a little more aerobic, like, give up the greyhound. But yeah, it's a great overall, our question. John Seaford asks, Christmas is coming. All right.
Here we go. Nice job, John. I appreciate that.
Christmas is next month. Thanksgiving is coming up. That's like saying, oh, well, July 4th is coming up. No, it's not. Thanksgiving is coming up. I don't know why people seem to like
the look on your face.
Just disgust. John Seaford, I'm sure you're a solid dude, but stop it.
Oh, he is a solid dude. I can tell you that.
I can make a purchase for myself. Yeah, typical Christmas spirit. Carbon wheel center power meter pedals. Which one? Listen, power meter. Well, first off, if you can afford a carbon wheel set, you can afford legit power meter, which is a crankbase when I wouldn't go pedals. Buy a cork. I would 100% get that because you can rent race wheels. You can't rent a power meter. It'd be useless. So I would 100% go all in for a power meter if you can, use the Christmas spirit and buy yourself something. But yeah, I would do that, and I would also celebrate Thanksgiving in 3 weeks. Chuck Knuth, John Seifert, are you more interested in data or looking good? I mean, some people are both. John, I want to perform better. Easy question. Boom, done. 100%. It's power meter. Sean Sanford, one of our boys, who recently also booked a 4-night stay at the new townhome. What is the difference between training to push yourself towards a 70.3 Worlds qualification or a Kona slot versus training as scheduled and going with the fitness that matures over time? For example, if my goal next year is to qualify for 70.3 Worlds, how does the training differ from that versus just going out to complete the races to the best of our ability? That is a podcast in and of itself. I think that's a general misconception that a lot of athletes have, is that in order to achieve those qualification type based goals, you need to take things more seriously. A lot of it is just where you are, your ability to be consistent, your ability to be available, which injury free, but also what is your life like? Do you have a demanding job? Is that demanding job consistent in its demands, or is it fluctuate so you can't predict things? It's almost never just about an increase in volume, right? Because you also just can't, we've talked about this before, you can't take an athlete, when you look back at the athlete's annual hours and they were, maybe 10 the year before, you can't bump up their annual hours to 14, right? You're looking at almost a 50% increase to a year. It's too much. You're going to be overtraining. And that's where qualification-based results are so tricky. I mean, especially when you talk about, athletes that qualify for Kona, you have to have your best day, and you got to have a little bit of luck. And a lot of times it's not about just we went over this when we kind of went through the average hours. I think I posted about this in the Christian Guy, but we had 2 athletes qualify for Kona at Chattanooga, and their average training hours weren't when you hear that, you think, oh, they devote their life and every ounce of their being and breath to the qualification process. But it's not true. Their average hours, average as in all the 12 months of the year, not peak, but average was around 12, right? Which is super sustainable. But it's also, difference on how long have you been in the sport? How long have you been taking this seriously? If it's year 2 and you're still kind of cutting your teeth into getting in the, your own athlete life cycle and where you are, it's going to take extra time. It doesn't mean you won't get lucky, and have your best race against, a specific type of competition that just kind of ends out, playing well for you. Listen, the only other thing you can usually add up a little bit differently is just volume. Easy volume is never a bad thing, but then again, life stress, right? It's life stress. Your body only knows stress, so it's not an apples to apples thing. I want to train for Kona, I need to train more hours. The answer is rarely ever more. It's about right, and it's about how long it takes, and you just can't. And as a coach, you have to be able to tell athletes that, and you can't just blow smoke up their ass. You're but next year for sure. You don't know anything about for sure. Most of the time, you tell people years. You want to qualify, it's going to take years. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's just the truth. You have to be able to look at where you are, and then also what are your biggest weaknesses, right? If your weakness is the run, it's probably going to be longer because it's the one that takes the longest because of how impactful it is on your body to ramp up. If it's swimming, maybe next year you could fix that with a nice little swim analysis, or doing a more swim focused off season. It just very much depends. There is no cut and dry. But I will tell you that in order to qualify, you need to race, because you never know the you that will show up, and who else will show up. And that's just, so the more you race, especially when you're going for things like going for a Kona slot, the more times you can race, especially long distance racing, you learn something every time you go out. So that's the biggest thing, is how much of a rookie are you, how seasoned you are.
Yeah. You said a lot of things that I was thinking. But But yeah, race experience. I always, talk to people and they think they're ready and they get, and it happened to me. You think you're ready to push, towards that top 10 or whatever in your age group, and then you kind of fall apart. But you learn something. You learn so much during a race that you don't even realize too. And I think just race experience is something that just takes time, like everything else. Of course, people do it. I've seen people qualify their first time out, but they've usually got a pretty good background and things come together. I thought the easiest way to qualify for Worlds was just find a race where nobody's going to take the slots.
Yeah, there you go.
Then you just, so strategically, no, but it's hard, man. And I think I think you really just have to figure out where you're at and just try to be the best you can be without thinking about trying to qualify, because like, where can you go? And then that's going to be, the only place that you end up. And then, like you said, if a particular day certain people don't show up or whatever, because, when we watched our Worlds this year and we're just looking at, where are these people at? There's some crazy fast people now.
It's insane.
And we had talked about this before, which I think is really interesting, is back in the day, you talk about the Dave Scotts with Mark Allens and their times still hold up. But what happened is that there's so much information out there and so many people kind of know how to train now that there's a lot of people getting up. The pointy end is still the pointy end usually as far as the fastest. Mm-hmm. But that group of really, really fast people is getting bigger and bigger. And that's the qualifying group, and it's got to be hard. Although, 70.3 Worlds seem, because the last year or whatever has been kind of weird. A lot of people got out there, but I think like the Kona thing you talked about, when they only have 1 or 2 slots, boy.
Takes luck, and that you have
luck
to be
in a lot of years. I think a lot
does.
of times.
Yep, it takes luck. A lot. A lot of it. Everything we do takes an enormous amount of luck, I think. But you got to be able to participate to get that luck. Kathleen said, Sean Sanford, great question. Agreed. Next up was Carrie. What off-season options should be explored when trying to build a better training and racing nutritional plan? Trial and error. Like that's nutrition and appropriate fueling in a plan that actually works is one of the most underrated aspects of performance. And people wait till the last minute to figure it out, or they have something that kind of works and they wing it. So they think it's what's best for them. But it might just be barely even good enough. It's just not problematic, but it definitely might not be best. And I think that's, it's a great time of year to explore. You don't have to go all in and try 3 different, nutrition strategies, because frankly, you're not going to be probably training this far out from a big race, doing 3-4 hour long rides, to really, really see how your body and your GI system reacts to, certain fueling plans, nutritional strategies. But I would start to explore options for that. And then about 6 months out from your big race, try to, pinpoint that, because a lot of people who do or will customize fueling plans for your nutritional strategy will tell you that, we like products X, Y, and Z, and it might take you, to your 3rd bottle of whatever to figure out, this is what I like. Like, I like the way it tastes. It sits well with me, because there's some products you'll have and you're like, that's not for me. Like, I even if it's the best thing for you, you're not going to find a way to stomach it if you don't like it. So it's all about trial and error. Try new things out. A lot of companies hand out single serves, buy like 10 random single serves and see what you like, and then whittle it down and then figure out what you have to buy cans of. But this far out, you shouldn't, if you're this far out from in quote unquote off season, you won't be able to get a true representation of what is the best fueling plan for your, especially if it's long course racing, because you're not doing any long course training. An hour, you can probably handle anything for an hour and a half on the trainer. You can probably live off whatever. 5 hours, different story. And so like it's, I would just find something that you think might work, or whittle down things that you think might be in the options, or specific choices of products that you think will work. And then as you get, again, 4, 5, 6 months out, then try to start dialing in what you think would be the best nutritional strategy.
Mm-hmm. This might not be a popular opinion, but
you're full of those.
Don't walk the marathon if you want your fastest time. No, I'm kidding. But like, I agree. I think nutrition is a huge part of it. And I just think it gets overused as like I don't want to say excuse, but like for example, this year, I think, I went through this Chattanooga and I thought fine. I think what I put in my body was like, it didn't disrupt me. Everything went good. I thought I had a pretty good plan, but I just wasn't in shape enough, man. You know what I mean? Like, I just think people go, well, my fueling wasn't right. No, I don't think you trained enough a lot of times, because like a lot of times I really believe this, that gut disruption can be because you are going harder in a race than you normally go, for example.
Yeah, it's like cramps.
Yeah, same thing. Why do you get cramp? Well, I get cramp. I didn't have enough sodium.
I didn't have enough salt, and I had one tip of a banana, and all of a sudden my world changed. Shut up. It has nothing to do with the banana.
No, yeah. How about you went harder than you normally go? Because, I mean, I've seen it. Here's a good way to test it. Just push yourself on a bike trainer at a hard gear and push yourself for like harder than you normally would push for like 10 minutes. And you tell me how your stomach feels after that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens in a race. So we all get to this thing about, I just didn't have my fueling down. No, I don't think you were trained to the effort you put out in that race a lot of times. I'm not saying nutrition is not it's super important, but I just think a lot of times it becomes the fallback for why my race sucked. I just didn't have, what is this? Yeah.
And it's like the run. I got to run more. Well, you're probably overbiked. Yeah. I mean, it's an easy cop out. Most people don't train enough. Yeah. That's not unpopular. It's very popular in this room.
Okay.
Yeah. Y'all need to train more. Cody Powell, when building a quote unquote race schedule, what is a good rule of thumb for space between events to allow for recovery as well as continuing to build towards one's A race? It depends. Because it depends on the length of the race. It depends on the intensity in which you intend to race it. It also depends on like if you're going to go race a 10K and it's going to be in like perfect temps in February versus racing a half marathon that's hilly and hot in August. Like even just the extra 10K, the recovery time is going to be significantly more. It also depends on is the race in between going to be a D or a C race? How long is the race going to be? I always, if it's your A race, I always say 6 weeks away minimum. Like give yourself time, because races, things pop up in races because you go all out. You only got so many matches to burn. You might make a bad decision and go too hard. You might not recover well. You might get sick. How much travel's involved in said race? Like the terrain of the race. Again, like I said about the 10K half marathon thing. What time of year is a race? Because it just takes you longer to recover from certain things. It also depends on how much of a taper are you taking into a certain race. Are you taking a lot of taper in? You should probably bounce back and be back to work like the next day. Are you taking in very minimal taper, and you might need recovery because you're going in with a little more of a load? Like it's very, very, it depends. Because again, like I said, it depends on the terrain, depends on the elements, depends on the distance, and then also is dependent on what is your big race for the year. Is it something you're just kind of going through the motions to practice with? You're doing a 70.3, 6 to 7 weeks out from your race, from your Ironman, and you're going to actually like rip it, then you need to dictate recovery after that a little bit differently, or the lead up a little bit differently because you might need more recovery time, or you're just using it to pace out your nutritional strategy. Well, if that case, back to work the next day, like back in the pool, easy recovery swim. It's just, I always say, like, if you're going to race a lot, do it right now. Hop in a 5K or a 10K, like be spontaneous with your racing, right now, and kind of get that out of your system. And then once the season, quote unquote season hits and you have a plan and you're trying to build towards something successful, don't just deviate to deviate, which is what so many athletes do. They've just got like ADHD race schedule. And it's like, oh, well, there's a local Olympic just popped up into my radar. And I'm like, it's been open for a year. Your buddy just said he's doing it. You should plan for it. And then plan like the next week. So, yeah. And so I think it's just very, very, it depends, and it varies from person to person. It also depends on, like we said, your level of fitness going into a race. Like, like you, like,
100%.
And I know the example you're going to use too.
You do?
Lake Logan. The Ironman in Louisville. Like you were in great shape, going into that. You did Lake Logan and you basically like went right back to work like a day or two later.
Yeah, that was, and I think Wisconsin was 5 weeks or something after that. But yeah, I was in good shape going in, but I also approached that race. I didn't like throw it away, but I was definitely under control. I mean, it depends so much on how you race it too. And I think because there's been times when I went out and did Music City Olympic, and I was shelled for like 3 or 4 days after that race because of the swim current with Theo one time. And then I just went out and really ran and rode hard. But at that Lake Logan, I kind of paced it and was just, mindful of where I was going next. But the other thing about the Olympic, I was just not in that good a shape going into it. And I was like, oh, it's only an Oli. You kind of get that silly mindset. It's all relative no matter what you're racing. You can really blast yourself on an Olympic if you're not in shape for it. So I would say it kind of depends on your overall fitness is a huge part of that. And then just race strategy.
And what are your ultimate goals for the year? More experience? Really, really going for broke on one race? There's just so many things to take into account. Next up would be, hold on a second. I lost my scroll. Kevin Mathau. What technique to use to switch from full bore training, nutrition, eating tons of calories to moving to off-season maintenance training and needing reduced calories? I think we covered that. It's a general.
It's a big theme today.
Yeah, it's a huge theme. Like, you guys be hungry or something. Like, we're hungry or too satiated. But it's off season. Like, again,
just eat a brownie and get on the bike.
For real. Like, put a little peanut butter on it. It's a better thing to do. And I don't know that it's a technique. I think it's just kind of one of those things where you kind of have to realize, like we said before, like, you're just, old habits die hard. When you're in season, you're like, oh, I can just pick up extra this, extra that, because I'm training 14, 15 hours a week. Then you're like, wait a minute, I haven't trained in like a month. Like I said, don't go out for your 30-minute run, with your dog and have like a recovery shake and, 4 raw eggs in the blender. Like, you just don't need it. You just be reasonable. Like, I think this is.
Do people still do the raw egg thing, by the way?
I'm sure they do, man. I'm sure, like, every, freshman in college trying to get his pump on, probably gets up GNC for the cyber stack and then goes and pounds some raw eggs while he's snorting creatine, trying to get swole for the ladies.
When you're young, you can get away with anything almost, it seems
you
like.
Can. Yeah, as you get older, not so much.
Boy, that did not work.
Iona, how can you practice your fueling for a hot race if you only train outside and will have a significant temperature jump? Overdress. If you're averse to training inside, and you're going to be outside, then you need to overdress, and then make sure you go out and train in the hottest part of the day. So, a lot of athletes in different countries that go back and forth to different international races that are going to be hot and cold, like they'll just overdress. But you also have to be very, very careful about how much you overdress, because you don't want to also impede your ability to be fit. And again, like, that's not something you need to start training now. That's like a 2-month out type deal, to where you're like, because people start to like heat acclimate like 8 months away by turning their trainer off in a heartbeat. I'm like, you're not doing yourself any good. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're actually impeding your progress and negating fitness, because you can't work as hard. It's a 2-month thing out, like, for 2 months, and plus once a week for heat acclimation is nothing. You're just sweating a lot. Go to hot yoga instead. So yeah, dress up, but then also just, just don't start it too early. Tiffany Appleton, standing position on the bike, when and how to best use the position other than just for giving the sore bits a little relief. I am a non-stander. I always say, if you don't stop standing. Like, most people stand way too much, way too early, and pound way too much on the pedals. The only time I will advocate for standing is like maybe that when you've gotten to the top, you've been spinning, you've been cruising, you've been staying steady in the saddle, is maybe that last 5 to 6 feet. Maybe stand up, give a little bit of go, give your keister a rest, or your bits, if you will, and create more momentum getting up and over the top of the climb that you're doing. Because what most athletes do is they stop pedaling about 5 to 6 feet before they get to the top, and they lose all that momentum. So instead of carrying, a 13 to 14 mile an hour momentum onto and continue to push on the pedals the first 5 to 10 meters of the downhill, they basically like stop pedaling and go from like 13 to 12 to 11 to 10. And then they don't pedal. They just kind of cruise and coast down the hill, losing all kinds of time. So that's really the only time I advocate for standing position on the bike, besides, giving your bits a rest.
Well, in training, like, go for it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in training,
I think it's
there's
hard, but like in the example you use, I think you can get up and you don't have to. You can just use your weight a lot to kind of you know what I mean. Like I do that a lot during the race, especially if you got a little momentum. Kind of get up and just like you're saying, give your body a little bit of a different position. But yeah, I think in general, people in racing get out of their saddle a lot or way too much. But in training, I love to do it just because it's hard. You know, it's hard to. You know, we have that biker Getty, and that was kind of how I sort of came up with it. Is for a minute and a half, just stay out of your saddle and ride hard. That's very difficult, and those are the kind of things on the bike that most people won't try or flirt with. And I think that's how you get faster, is making stuff like that doesn't. But it's in training. That's what it's all about. Those hour and a half trainer rides during the week, man. That's how you build your speed. I think.
Very, very good point. In training, there's a lot of great times to use it, because it increases the load, right, in your legs, which in training, which is fun, can also increase and benefit some different areas of adaptation to really force more power through your legs. But obviously, the same can be said for when you race. That's not what you want happening. You don't want to force more power into your body and into your legs, because that higher power generates, more lactic acid buildup, and you're burning your biscuits. You're like, that is not what you want to do in racing. And again, the same reason why, you do things in training you would never do in a race, right? Like you would never, because it would ramp your heart rate up. It would do things that are too hard. You'll burn your biscuits, all those fun things. But in training, not a bad thing to do. I wouldn't do it all the time, because again, you're forcing more power just through physics than you would anything else. So just be careful with it, and then stay away from as much as you can in a race. Lisa Stevenson, if there's a difference in power output during trainer versus outdoor riding, and you mostly train indoors, how much outdoor riding should you add in so you give your coach enough information to help you set power targets for an upcoming race? You should do all of your long specific rides outside. Because there's a lot of, like, there's a thing, like, there's a lot of like, people just don't know. Okay, if you train inside or you use Zwift as your power most of the time, or you go back and forth and using, Zwift power and your Wahoo power, then your kicker power, and then your pedal power and your cork power, like, you need pick a power. Okay, pick a power, right? Pick a power and stick with it all the time. You can't go back and forth, because one's going to be higher, one's going to be lower, one's going to be more erratic, one's going to be more steady. Pick the one you're going to race with. That's it. But a lot of people don't, because when they race with might not read as high as their Zwift powers or Wahoo kicker power or whatever it is, and they want to look swole, right? They want to look like they're doing the creatine blows, like they want to be, looking saucy on Strava. Well, it doesn't matter, right? Because if all you're doing is pumping your data full of false, inflated data, then it's useless data. So if you really, really want to give your coach or yourself a fair shake of what your power needs to be outside, then you need to do at least 3, if not 4 to 5 outdoor rides at, whatever Olympic 70.3 Ironman type power and effort, not noodling around, but specific things to be able to get a specific number. If you're not doing that, you're doing yourself and your coach a disservice. Mm-hmm. John Earl. Solid. I like that name. John Earl. I bet no one's ever called you John. I bet everyone says John Earl, John Earl, J.E. They're probably John Earl. It's an easy one. I like that. How many sessions should you test a race nutrition plan before determining that it works? Until you feel like it doesn't. It's like one of those things, like, you don't know something doesn't work until it doesn't. Like, I went on the road and I was fine off of bottled water, and I'm like, 2 goos. I'm like, yeah, you were fine. Do you feel like that was probably best? Because the more you do things, the more you can figure out if something's going to go wrong. And that's like the same thing with training. 1 or 2 times does not make just like going back to like the power, like, one ride doesn't make your race pace power. It's cumulative, right? It's the overall average of times you've done something and what you're looking for. Same thing goes to the best nutritional strategy. Just because you did it, I went on a long ride and it really, really worked for me that day, means nothing. Like, doing it once means nothing. You want to nail it 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and you don't want to have to think about it. You want to absolutely nail it. So as much as possible, like spend the last, again, like 3 months before you race on your long rides, making sure that you are trying to nail down your, very, very popular. A lot of you must have had hit the struggle bus with the nutrition and fueling strategies
Halloween,
last year.
man.
Oh, dude, Halloween, I know. Picked up pain from school on Monday. He was like, my stomach hurts. I was like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, because you had too much candy yesterday and this night, asking me for asking me for Kit Kats for breakfast.
It's a cumulative fatigue. I mean, like, how do you know how you feel? You know, there's a lot of stuff going on, and some days you just feel great, and then you can ride without a lot of nutrition. That's my point, I think, is that some days you just, if you're in better shape and you're rested and all kinds of stuff like that, you can do things without nutrition.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's my ticket, right? Or you can, go out and have 14 chimichangas, 4 margaritas, and some cheese dip and go out, wake up the next morning and get all your nutrition nailed down. You got your bottles on the counter. You got everything right up. You're like, this is it. I got it. And then 30 minutes in, you're throwing up. You're like,
chimichangas.
Race strategy. This is not it. This fueling strategy is not. I'm like, what do you mean it's not going to work? You're trying to pour EFS onto bean dip and queso, probably still undigested in your stomach. Like, it's not the EFS, it's your bad choices from the previous night. Like, again, like that's another, or the salmon.
Or like the night. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The night before chatting, when I didn't sleep, I was on that bike course getting the caffeine about mile 10. I was just like, I'm not awake right now. I mean, it depends. I'm like, if you sleep good, I mean,
you can get away with stuff, man. I'm telling you can get away with stuff.
Yeah.
Kaylin, because I said, no question, but I loved the statement. If you are not fueling the depths of your soul by connecting with humans, you're probably going to burn out, or something along those lines. That sounds way better than what we would have said. I needed to hear that during off season as I've been probably going too hard with my run schedule, starting to feel like I'm missing something in a spark. Well, you're welcome. That's kind of what we do. Throw general comments out there and hopefully someone likes them. So I'm glad that resonated. We had a lot of, it's interesting. Like, we're a triathlon heavily related podcast, but we oftentimes get like texts or emails and stuff from our athletes or Facebook messages from strangers that just love the ones we do that have literally nothing to do with triathlon.
I know, the last one I walked away and I was like, man, what a clunker. And then
I got multiple text messages like, hey, you really hit home. Or, it's like someone used like the phrase, like, I feel like you were the preacher talking straight to me, at the sermon, you kind of like felt singled out. And I'm like, listen, we're all going through it. We're no different than you guys.
And then can I just throw, because it is that time of year, everybody's reflecting on their stuff, right? And everybody wants to get better, and everybody wants to get better now. And we just keep reiterating, it's like, man, you can't get better. Well, you can, but like, to have the intensity of wanting to get better 365 days a year is a bad recipe. So I think what we are trying to reiterate right now is that it's just that time of year when it's tough, man. You can have one, it's up day, down day, up day, up. So just kind of stay around, and just don't go too hard. If you feel fantastic one day, throw in some, pickups and run a little harder for a little bit, but don't go overboard, because, you're just one bad workout from ruining the next month and a half. That's the way I look at it.
Dude, like that. And we'll finish the rest of these questions up on Monday. But listen, success is so, like, I love what you said. And this is a great time of year, I think, for athletes to learn to be autonomous, to own their own training, to make good decisions. Like you said, like, one great workout is never going to make or break your race, right? One workout where you chose to do something idiotic and you knew you shouldn't be training, or your legs felt like crap, or you didn't get good sleep and you chose to do those speed intervals anyway, instead of, being smart, because you just couldn't help yourself. That's what ruins and prevents great races. It's the ego, and it's the inability to think for yourself. Like, I was telling an athlete earlier this morning on a call, I said 80 to 90% of athletes' success is dictated by two things: your availability, right, which means just being healthy and being motivated, right, and knowing when it's the time to be super dialed in. But really, it's availability. And then consistency. In order to be consistent, you got to be available. And that honestly gets athletes 85 to 90% of the way there, if you can do those things. But it also comes down to load management, appropriate things, in your training, which, comes with, having a good coach or a good plan. Like, those are things that set you up to be more available. Like, and you know this, like, is like the best comments a coach can get is, like I had one the other day. I think it was Dan Hill. It was last week. It was like, hey, just looking back on the calendar, he was like, that's the most I've run in a week in 7 or 8 years. And then that's the first time I've ran over 100 miles in you guessed it, never. And I was like, those are the things that we love to hear as coaches. Or I'm going into this race healthy, which I've never would have been able to do. Like, it's sustainable, right? It's something you can do for a long period of time, and it's just so backwards from how society has drifted to, which is like, give me right now. How many shortcuts can I take? And who cares if it breaks my body into pieces? I just got to get it. I got to have it now. And it's not sustainable. And so when you're looking at doing things as off season and trying to be better for the season, always look at things in how can I be consistent with my training? In order to be consistent with my training, I need to make sure I'm doing the right things, the right time, with the right intensity and the right volume. And I need to be available. I need to be healthy, which comes with nutrition and fueling and recovery. It also means taking time to mentally and emotionally unwind, and not be so strict and stringent, and rigid with your schedule and with your life, and to learn how to be, because I'll tell you right now, your ability to be flexible right now and learn your body more by having to listen to it more, because you're not being given specifics, will do you wonders when it comes to the season, right? Because if you can't make those decisions when you feel like you have the most amount of freedom, you'll never be able to make those decisions when you feel like you're under the most amount of pressure. You're going to do it no matter what, because you don't know how to think. And long course racing in general is all about problem solving. It's about, and that is the best way. Like Sean Sanford, going back to your question, I will never consider myself, no matter what I end up doing in life, and from a sport aspect, I'll never probably be the best athlete. But I do believe that I can outthink and outsmart people the longer the race goes, because it comes down to decision making. And long course racing, in this sense, maybe irrelevant, but I was talking to somebody yesterday about long course racing, and we always say, like, how little is it? It's not about how fast you go; it's about little you slow down. When you see about people obsessed with, like, their track workouts, and they're like, your fastest mile doesn't matter, your slowest miles matter. Because you can hop out. I was talking to an athlete at Ironman Florida tomorrow. I said, your fastest mile is irrelevant. It's what is going to be the average of your slowest miles. You could come out of the gate and do 5 miles at 7 minutes, but if miles 13 to 14 or 13, 14 minute, 50 minute miles, think about how much time you're hemorrhaging by going and dropping that. And the most successful half and even full marathon runs you see in an Ironman, I generally see like a 75 to 90 second difference between their fastest and their slowest. It's pretty much even Steven. And that's all about the ability to be durable and be out there for a long time. And that comes from being available and healthy, and then being consistent.
Mm-hmm. And frankly, it's experience. I mean, to understand how you feel and be able to tap into what that is. And if the more times you do that, the more times you're out running or riding or whatever it is, that you just, and that's the thing I think we get kind of confused by a lot is, certain people are really good runners, but they've been running their whole lives or whatever, or they're swimming, like the backgrounds of a lot of people get into the triathlon later in life, and they want to kind of change how they feel, and they want to change their trajectory and health and everything like that. But they forget that they don't have that deep ingrained experience from the past. So it just takes a little bit longer. And then if you don't have it, then you got to kind of maybe develop that, Goggins mentality a little bit more, where you can fight through it. But that only goes so far too, right? So that's why I think we belabor on this patience point, and just building up mileage and building up experience, and getting to the point where you can legitimately go into an Ironman saying, I know I can hold a 13-minute pace. So that's what I'm going to try and do. And if I feel better towards the end, I'm going to push it up, or a 10-minute pace, or whatever the case may be. It's all relative. So what can you own for sure? And don't try to be something you're not, because that's what we end up doing a lot in this sport, is like we see that one workout. Mm-hmm. We're like, I might be able to
gotta be the ticket.
Throw down.
It's got to be the ticket.
And then you get trapped in the middle, and then that whole thing goes to hell. And we've seen it a gazillion times.
One of the, like, as you were talking about, going out and gaining experience and doing things like that, I couldn't help but like think of back in the day when I was in college and I was in out of college, and I would frequent, the Y, and I'd go to the pickup basketball games in the morning. And you're looking at, like, picking teams. You're like, oh, my team is stacked, man. We got the young bucks. We got the high school guys. I think they're the shit. The
Y game.
Couple of college, the Y game, and you're going up and you're guarding this, like, 5'4", chubby old dude, and he just owns you, right?
Yeah.
Because they're just
the pivot.
He wants the pivot. He got the pick and roll. He's got, he gets every single rebound. He's got that sweet spot in the corner. You can't defend with a quick release because he does the jump back. Like, that's how Ironman racing is. Like, you can outsmart, especially because you know what you're good at. You know how to use it to the best of its ability, and your experience. You've seen it all. You don't let your ego and your athletic ability try to run the day, because you can't. You'll run yourself from the ground. So you have a chance to. The longer the race is, the more you can bridge the gap between someone that's faster and fitter to maybe who someone's not quite, but you can make better decisions, because those decisions can wreak havoc. Which is also why I like going into races and having, only like a time goal can be so defeating, is because once you realize you can't meet it, then you're going to give up. You're going to start walking and no walk, baby. # no walk. That's all I got. We'll get back to the questions and finish these up on Monday, and then we'll be off to run camp. But we'll make sure we get our 2 out as usual. As Mike said at the beginning of the podcast, if you're interested or have any questions about the Club Plus, or the Club Hub package, get it done. Ask them now. If you're interested in the Club Hub package and scheduling that, you can always email Summer, c26operations@gmail.com. She handles all of our booking and calendar stuff, and just generally helps keep us organized in a very unorganized office. If you have any questions about just the club in general, or even the Club Plus, or anything else, and how to rock flannel in a sexy, wise way, you can reach out to Mike. He's at crushingiron@gmail.com. And if you have any questions for me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com. And for the rest of it, you can find it on our website, c26triathlon.com, a one-stop shop for coaching, camps, and
Nicely done. I will catch you later. See ya.